Islam, Islam, Kill Bay, Wazir Arez of Maroon State Republic. Welcome all the viewers, and thank you to everybody who is live with me in this random study session that I decided to um, just speak on some a collection of basic information in regards to international law in the Moorish community. Uh, there's a few images on the state's page. Well, this isn't. Well, that's another story. The state page will be another one coming soon. This won't be it. There'll be another one coming soon. So uh, I decided to use a few screenshots to go over a few information to declutter some of the misinformation within the Moorish community. And I'm gonna start off with this document that the Kazi J. Bay had edited by highlighting key points in House Resolution number 75, produced by the United States. Okay. So this is in 1933, House Resolution number 75. Now, this document is basically going to tell you how the term Moorish-American is the sellout term. It's going to tell you what it means. So I'll start where it says, in the House of Representatives, April 17th, 1933, many sons and daughters of that proud and handsome race, which inspired the architecture of northern Africa and carried into Spain the influence of its artistic temperaments, have become citizens of this nation. So it's basically saying there's some people from northern Africa and Spain that have become citizens of this. And when it says this is talking about the United States, that's where the document is coming from. So we're talking about Moors here for the Moors who know about this. So it says they became citizens of this nation. Moors know we're not citizens of the United States. Okay, so that's point number one. In the city of Philadelphia, there exists a Moorish-American society, not a state, a society. We're not talking about the state government, we're talking about a group. It's the group of Moorish-Americans, quote unquote. It says made up of Moors who have found here the end of their conquest for a home. As a citizen of this nation, you have found the end of your conquest for a home, according to this Moorish-American society. It says in this document, right? It says in of this and of the children of those who journeyed here from the plains of Morocco. So I'm talking about people from Morocco who journeyed here from the plains of Morocco. Okay. It says this society, not a state, a society, has done much to bring about a thorough absorption by these people. So this Moorish-American society has done a good job absorbing people to become citizens of this nation as Moorish-American. That's basically what's being said so far. So it says absorption by these people of these principles which are necessary to make them good American citizens. So that they're absorbing you to make you a good American citizen. These Moors, they want to make good American citizens. Okay, it says these Moorish-Americans have since been here missed the use of these titles and name annexations that were so familiar at home and which are used in accordance with the doctrine of the religious faith. I'm gonna finish that sentence. I'm gonna finish that right quick. That sentence right quick. Well, let's just reread this last part I just stated because this might go over a few people's head. It says these Moorish-Americans have since been here missed the use of the titles and name annexations that were so familiar at home and which are used in accordance with the doctrines of the religious faith to which they are adherent. Therefore, be it resolved that this house commends the Moorish-American Society of Philadelphia for the efficient service it has rendered the nation in bringing about a speedy and thorough Americanization. So, this in accordance with the doctrines of the religious faith. Which religious faith are we talking about here? Working on whose behalf of whose religious faith are we talking about here? They're being real general in this document, yet being direct. They say that was so familiar at home, and which are used in accordance with the doctrines of the religious faith Okay, they're making you American. Which religious faith are we talking about here? We know that even though America is built on Islamic laws in truth, but what are they really? British subjects, Spanish subjects, French subjects who got together. We're all opposing Islam at one point in time. So it, let's continue reading this document. It says a speedy and thorough Americanization of these former Moors. So that means calling yourself as American, a Moorish-American means you have went through a speedy and thorough Americanization and you're a former Moor. So the whole term will be Moorish-American. Definition is a former Moor who has gone through a speedy and thorough Americanization, i.e., naturalization process. Because Moorish-American is not defined as not stemmed from anywhere else in international law. It's a creature of the United States. It says, and that in accordance with the fullest right of religious independence guaranteed every citizen we recognize. Also, the right of these people to use the names affixes El or Ali or Bey. So it's saying every citizen we recognize. Let's read that over. And in accordance with the fullest right of religious independence. Remember, Moore said, Moors who are in the temple, a lot of times they say, they speak on the importance of religion and using religion to shroud everything else, as Noble Ali did, right? So it says, in accordance with the fullest right of religious. Okay, Noble Ali knew that when he incorporated the Moorish Science Temple of America in the United States, or in or under the United States de facto government, which means in fact they're the government, in fact they were the sovereign government, but in truth, no, they're the de facto. So it says that with the fullest right of religious independence, which people like Noble Drew Ali knew about that. That's why he used religion to shroud everything else. Why did he have to do that? Because he was in a colonizer system. He wasn't in a separate jurisdiction. Noble Drew Ali was still seen as a Moor subject. Why? Because states in 1906 Act of Algiers says all states need a state constitution. There were no states with no state constitutions at that time. Not more states. So the least Noble Drew Ali could do is what he could, which is bring us everything, and yet the half has not been told. So he can bring us what he could. So it goes to say, fullest right of religious independence guaranteed every citizen we recognize. So basically, all the ways and methods that the Moorish-Americans are using within the United States system are being recognized, right? Like the mayor sending off the letters saying, yes, we recognize the Moorish-Americans, whatever, but they still can't exercise basic human rights. What do they really recognize? They recognize something within their own system that they allow. They'll never recognize decolonization. They'll never recognize what's true. Why? Because one, they can't even do that. Only states can recognize other states. They're not a state. So this document was in 1933, not too long after the Prophet transition. So we know where the term Moorish-American came from if Noble Drew Ali called us Moroccans. People say COINTELPRO is real and Noble Drew Ali work was tainted, never calculated anywhere in work. They just say it. Time to really weigh in actual reference points, especially treaties. This is another document. The Constitution of the United States of America, 1789, or United States, 1871, as follows. Article 3, Section 2, Clause 1. Judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States, and treaties made. So it's a differentiation between the Constitution and the treaty, obviously. I'm confused to that. Right? But it says arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States and the treaties, or which shall be made under their authority. Who has the United States of America does not have authority to exercise treaty in certain ways. They don't have the power to to they have limited jurisdiction. If we wanted to petition to terminate the treaty, we could, just as they could. But if they did, where would they go? By the well, they don't. So says or treaties which shall be made under their authority. Okay. The treaties supreme law of the land to all cases affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and consuls to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, to controversies to which the United States shall be party. So Moors always saying, man, the United States on my neck about this. They trying to give me this case, this case, this case. And that's a controversy, right? So you have a controversy. What do we do? Follow the treaty. Okay. What the Moorish treaty say outside of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. It's a list of instructions. Basically, if you're to follow, will realize that going to the United States codes is not what the Moorish treaties say to do. You have to use the United States Constitution, not to use something like that. No. So it says to controversies to which the United States shall be party, to controversies between two or more states. I'm telling you, in the United States Constitution, that it's between two or more states. So your controversy you have with the United States be between two or more states. Because why? The Treaty of Peace and Friendship is between two states, two governments, two different jurisdictions on one landmass. Of course, there are overlay jurisdiction now, but it goes to say between a state and citizen of another state, between citizens of a different state, between citizens of the same state claiming lands under grants of different states, and between a state or citizens thereof and foreign states, citizens or subjects. So, international law, France versus United States of America court case. It called more subjects and protege. Why? Because it's subjugated by the American government. Subject is your subject. You must do what? Follow the treaties under their authority. So if you have a controversy with the United States, make sure you have a state, a citizen or a subject, right? International law, they say more subject. They don't say Moorish-American. They say Moorish-American in the France versus United States of America court case. The time they use the term Moorish-American, it's the United States system. The United States is the Wizard of Oz. So that tells you how much weight the term Moorish-American has. The Wizard of Oz. So foreign states. What's a foreign state? Moroccan state. They are foreign to the United States. 14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized. Oh, hold on, whoa. And Noble Jolly said we are sending the Moroccans born in America. Okay, naturalized in the United States. All persons born or naturalized. That's basically what he's saying. All persons naturalized in the United States, right? So Noble Drew Ali said we're Moroccan, born or naturalized in America, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, subject to the jurisdiction thereof, or subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person in its jurisdiction the equal protection of laws. Protectorate. So they say, okay, you're not a citizen, right? In the Dred Scott case. But then they pretty much wrap it up and say, you know what? You're a citizen. You're black. We're gonna throw different type of things out there. You're all this types of stuff. International law, we ain't gonna use the term that we have to use, which is more subject. Because if we use that term, we gotta start telling the truth. Can't use binding terminology. Whole point of the term Moorish-American coming about. So um but that was a point. Start from here. Go back to the basics. This is from the book Principles of Political Science. It says government is the organization of the state. Top, top. It says for the existence of a state, government is necessary. Then it goes to say government is the organization of the state. So the state and the government intertwines, two different things that they intertwine. The existence of a state, government is necessary. So state, when we think about the empire state, just like the United States of America or the United States of Morocco, they perform. It's a state, it's a person, it's an entity. The empire state supported by what? Several states. They says the government is the organization of the state, the organ of unity, the organ whereby the common purposes which underlie the unity are definitely translated into practical reality. Okay. The fourth characteristic of the state is sovereignty. This is the supreme element of statehood. So it goes to say the state is supreme in both internal and external matters. This sovereignty is expressed through government. So what's the sovereign entity, the sovereign person, the government? Then it goes down to say all comprehensive means that the state embraces all persons and associations of persons within the given territory. Uh, Permanence means that whatever the form of government may be, the state always continues to exist. So the Moroccan Empire was in a coma. It still existed. Government, what it just said, whatever the form of government may be, the state always continues to exist. Our form of government was no longer. It's just like nationality. Nationality is not just one thing. Take away one avenue or mess up one avenue of nationality. That doesn't mean nationality as a whole doesn't exist. It's crippled. It's hindered. Ill something attention. So it goes to say the state is permanent throughout, as permanent as the human minds, the unity of which it, which it is the fundamental expression. So the human mind is the fundamental expression of the state. So as long as the human mind exists, the state exists. So Moorish always said, my state is Allah, etc., etc. But it's a higher self and lower self of the state because it's an actual, practical government, three branches of government, etc. State is used to denote the sovereign unity of a number of people settled in a fixed territory and organized under one government. Government is the practical manifestation or organization of the state and essential to it. In ordinary language, state and government are often used interchangeably, but for political science, a definite distinction is necessary. Government is the machine through which the ends or purposes of the state are realized. The state is largely an abstraction. Government is concrete. Governments change or die. The state is permanent. So again, as our government changed or quote unquote died because we were sold out, compromised, or assaulted, many people, but that doesn't change the fact that we come, uh, we, uh, we awake the empire as third state with third state parties. People ask if it was new states. No, the state has always been. State is not new, but we are third state parties only to reassemble the same state using a different governmental fashion. So the way we're going about this way of government is new to the state. The state is not. So it says government has power in virtue of its relation to the state. It is not sovereign. It has power only because the state grants it power. So when we say state of mind is Allah, who is granting us the power. So if you say Allah, Allah is granting power by way of human mind. More so, which the human mind makes affirmation, institution, law, therefore realizing, actualizing sovereignty, statehood, nationality. Only the state confers nationality. What is a state? Okay, we just went through that. Only the state confers nationality. Talking about you must clear yourself. You must declare yourself as this first, as a Moor. And you proclaim yourself the state. State of mind, it must be declared first. Then you must actualize it. Say, hey, I know who I am. Go back home. Return to Morocco by way of the state. So it goes to say much of the confusion um, in older writings on political science is due to the failure to separate state from government. So it's saying right there, much of the confusion, especially in the Moorish community, in older writings on political science is due to the failure to separate state from government because nobody explained that we read the word state in Black's Law Dictionary, fourth edition. You see that it means a defined territory, it means government, etc. Nobody said or nobody understood how it doesn't mean state of Allah, state of like consciousness was hiding itself in itself. You know how many times we read over that and just so excited to find the word in the next sentence that you didn't even comprehend what was just said. I've been there too. You know what I'm saying? But I'm speaking like this because not only did I have to speak to myself like this is cognitive dissonance. It's best that you handle it before anybody enforces you to handle it, because that's what it's gonna get to. And this is the book where I got this information from. Another poet. Again, we just going into some basic information. Chartered local government. A chartered city, county, or municipality is one that possesses a unique set of laws that forms a legal foundation of its local system of government. The actual legal document that articulates these laws is called a charter. Okay, so a charter is for cities, counties, and municipalities. Okay, not states, but cities, counties, and municipalities. Okay, those are within states, organized by states, governed by states. Okay, so it says charters stand in relationship to a county, city, village, or town the same way that a state constitution does to a state or a federal constitution does to a nation. Hmm. So charters are similar to state constitutions, but if you're looking to start a state, you cannot use a charter. Why? Because those are for towns, cities, counties, which are charters are issued by the state. They're not for the state. They're issued by the state. Okay. They define the powers and functions of elected officials as well as the organization and procedures of local government. Then we look up the definition of charter, an instrument emanating from the sovereign power. So it's coming from the state, which is the sovereign power, in the nature of a grant, either to the whole nation, a nation of people can be stateless. It's the term nation state. So it says, um, or to a class or portion of people, or to a colony or dependency. So charters are for colonies and dependencies, as in dependency states, which that's what the United States is. They're acknowledged around the world right now as a state. And as we come online and the lion lays with the lamb, they're seen as a dependency state. So, um, one example was the Great Charter or Magna Charta, right? You can't find any state governments that have charters representing them. that doesn't exist. Recognition. Government obtained recognition by the United Nations. It cut off the question, but it says the recognition of a new state or government is an act that only other states and governments may grant or withhold. It generally implies readiness to assume diplomatic relations. So hold on. When we go to the Vienna Convention of Diplomatic Relations, first thing it said, the states parties to this present convention. This is the first sentence, right? On the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Okay, so this is a convention on diplomatic relations. It says the states parties to this present convention. So it's saying that it's telling you, it's giving you instructions before you get into anything. It's giving you some type of foundation, saying that only states. It means that you have to establish a state first. That has to be set up. Because only states can be parties to this present convention. So you got your state organized. Did you establish that according to the treaties, according to international law? Right. So it said that it generally implies readiness. So recognition of a state generally implies readiness, meaning that recognition of a state is part of the process of establishing a state. And then you get into diplomatic relations. You don't get into diplomatic relations and you're not a part of the state. What did Noble Drew have? Why he had Abdul Aziz in the Holy Quran Circle 7? Because Noble Drew was operating as a diplomatic agent, or even you could say officer. Why? Because the title of a prophet is a seat of office. It's a seat of office. Look in the Moorish rudder and sexton. It's a seat of office in which they're basically, when we're looking at that time frame, we're looking at basically Morocco was under we were falling. The Sultan couldn't even be a Sultan because his power was being tarnished. It was starting to transition. So everybody else did for sure. So coming into this fold while the fall was happening, pretty much, if in my opinion, if Noble Drew was never around at that time, he would have definitely been hit. Like we would have plummeted because you had different nations trying to come in, set up shop, and for XYZ reasons, of course, like Germany influenced the Sultan to set up the Active series. Was it out of interest? Who knows? The best interest, who knows? But it's just ironic to look at the history of all of these states and try to think the best, is truly wanted at that time frame, knowing that nobody was really showing the best interest in anybody during that time, unless you were truly playing chess. That's the only way. So it goes to say that so I got that point out the way, right? Because there's Moors that believe that you can do establish diplomatic relations without having a state. But if you read between the lines, you can see that you have to have a state first. You got to be recognized. That's what implies readiness. So it goes to say the United Nations is neither a state nor a government, and therefore does not possess any authority to recognize either a state or a government. As an organization of independent states, it may admit a new state to its membership or accept its credentials of representatives of a new government. So I would like to say if you just go on Google, type in United Nations and whatever, United Nations treaties, United Nations library, um, whatever, and just find all the websites they have. It's very intriguing and very quick cut. Um, it's they'll get straight to the point. So I would advise for the Moors to study in that manner the several different websites that the United Nations has. But so it basically says the United Nations is not a state or a government, so it can't be democratic or republic, right? But what it can do is that when you do notify them that you become a state, they'll notify all the other people. Simple as that. So this right here is from the France versus United States of America letters that they had going back and forth in 1914. This is 1914. I believe the series of letters was between 1912 and 1914. So it says, with the highlighted section, it says the United States governments relinquishing together with its consular courts its extraterritorial privileges in the French zone of the Sharifian Empire. Okay, so it's basically saying the United States is in the Sharifian Empire. Okay. Whenever we think of Morocco in history, hearing stories, we always got to remember that what's happening over there is happening over here too. So France, their jurisdiction, right? You have to plug and play mentally as you hearing certain information and pretty much remember that this landmass is Morocco, the Sharifian Empire. So they had a French zone. There was a French zone over here at one point in time. So you have to just remember that when you read things about Morocco, the history between this state, that state, etc., because they're talking about this landmass 99% of the time. So obviously we can see that this statement is leading us to be aware that the Sharifian Empire is exactly where the United States is, which is people believe is this landmass, right? Because the United States government does not have jurisdiction over in the Kingdom of Morocco, right? So this is how we know that this is the Sharifian Empire. If anybody ever asks, it's pretty much clear cut. You ask them, okay, is the United States government or jurisdiction in Africa, in that quote unquote Moroccan Empire that you believe is the only section of the Moroccan Empire? Is the United States government jurisdiction over there? Obviously no. So pretty much it. This is in relation to the Moorish-American Temple of America. Okay. Um, and I'll start where it says all such is subordinate to legislation. For all local bodies are subordinate to the central government. What is the Moorish-American Temple of America? A local body, right? Their laws are really only bylaws. More to tell you in a second. The Constitution, the divine Constitution, is bylaws. Okay, they're really only bylaws. Downplaying bylaws real bad. It's only bylaws. In this respect, they are comparable to provincial governments in a federal system. So they're comparable, but they're not the same. They're not state governments, not a provincial state government. They have their constitutions which define their powers. Uh, they can make laws within limits, and anything done beyond these limits is ultra vires or beyond their powers, and therefore void. The point. So it goes to say, but the powers, functions, constitution of the local bodies are fixed by statute. So Moors had problems with statutes, right? But it says the powers, functions, and constitution of local bodies are fixed by statutes. So that's where they stop at. That's where they're eye to eye with statutes. Okay. So if Moors try to take over something in the Moorish Science Temple of America, they can't do so. Why? Because they're eye to eye with statutes. They don't go beyond that. They can't use treaties. They can't use um, et cetera, et cetera. Only states can do that. Oh. So it says some writers, it is true. It is true. Use the term local government in a wider sense of state. So basically, people are confusing terminology, thinking that local government, such as the quote unquote the theocratic government or the more science temple America, is a state government, right? In a federation or local administration by government officials. That is not correct. Okay. Uh, just read that. Um, okay. So that's pretty much it. I was gonna go over this video that J Bay um, pretty much made that he made, um, but it's pretty much everything that we just went over, which I just wanted to make a video as we conclude. I just wanted to make this video over the basics of the foundation, some foundation articles on how we can unclutter the misinformation that we were taught, because international law is its own system of law that Moors were not taught. Okay, we heard about it, but we were not taught about it properly, and that's just one thing you have to face. This has not been done before. When Moors say, "Yeah, I heard Moors do some things, what y'all been doing, I heard this been done before." No, it has not. Please stop saying that. It has not been done until 2021. France versus United States of America court case said that this has never been done. They said those certain steps, those certain instructions that they said in the court case have never been done. We'll read those court cases, those steps, those words. What did they say? They said the people on this landmass, and I'm paraphrasing, need a Moroccan authority, a modern state. That's the terminology they use. The modern state. And in this way only. So I definitely like to open up the floor if anybody has anything that they like to say before I conclude this video. But if not, we can definitely end it here.
I think, brother, you did a really good job of just reiterating that information. That was the subject matter tonight in reference to elaborating on the content that Jay Bay put up. I think that the biggest hurdle for our people, more specifically the Moorish-Americans, like our people, we're not a dumb people, but we are prideful people. And I think that sometimes that gets in the way of progress. And I've started to notice that because, like you've shown and others have shown, in reference to statehood, like we spoke about earlier, it's clear cut. There's not really too much to decipher. Like the information is there, so when it's laid out in just such a plain fashion, a digestible fashion, anybody that's going to turn their back on this information or not want to acknowledge it for what it is, because at the end of the day, it's the world, right? There's rules and regulations of the world, and we have to operate based off of what the standards and the arena and the routes that we have to utilize to get our remedy, because we're the heirs, point blank, period. But there's certain things that we got to do to reclaim it, and those are the instructions, the boxes being checked, etc. Right? So, I don't, and I know you mentioned about our people being afraid to do the work. Well, if you're scared to do the work, say that, because then we know that you need to step out the way, because the ones that are willing to do the work, the ones that are willing to get the ball rolling, don't like let them do their thing. Like, don't get in their way, because at the end of the day, we're doing this, for many generations to come. It's just not for us, and I think that these Moorish-American teachers, need to step back and broaden their scopes of information and knowledge, and do like I said, they've been useful and they've been helpful, and they provided a lot of good history and information over the years. Even individuals coming out of temple, etc. We're not going to diminish what they've tried to do, but at this point now, it's like, all right, listen, y'all came this far. Now we have to expand our realm of understanding. We weren't taught these things. We get that, but now they're being taught, and very clear, right? So let's get off our high horses. Let's not be so emotional. Let's have some humility, to us, because there's nothing wrong with being right. I'm always a seeker of truth. So if I have to learn something new to get closer to the truth, I'm going to do that. No problem, because it's not about being right, for me at least. I want the truth more than anything. So if we can, establish that understanding amongst those Moorish-American teachers and let them know, like, listen, this is what we need to be doing. This is what we need to be focusing on. If you really say that you're about the nation, and if you really say that you standing for what Noble Drew Ali stood for, then he brought us this far. Let's do the right thing by him and take up that torch and go the rest of the way, because the information and the knowledge is there. So, that's how I really just overall feel about the movement and all of that, like individuality and that boastfulness. And, I know this, I know that. Now, we don't all know it all. That's why we all work together so that we can come to a common understanding, because we got to work together to really get to where we want to be. And ain't just one or two people going to do it, So, like I said, that's where I'm at. And I really hope, and I know it's going to come, it's coming. But, I just want to see the process a little bit more expedited. I want to see a little bit more discipline. I want to see a little bit more organization, because outside of what we got going on in our day-to-day lives, whatever free time that a person may have, the bulk of that free time should be focused on this, because this is really what's going to shake up the world and let us take our rightful seat back.
Yeah. Islam.
Islam.
Did somebody just want to say something, or y'all just agreeing?
Just agreeing.
Oh, okay. We got 50 different meanings for that word. So and another thing, before we close out, well, I'll actually speak on it another time. I was going to speak about the whole Freemasonic type of fearful aspect that Moors, like to speak on. But it's all fear at the end of the day. But I'm actually getting kind of tired. So if anybody else has any questions or comments, I'll open the floor up. If not, we can conclude here. No? Okay. All right. So I appreciate everybody tuning in with me, building, having a good conversation, sharing the energy with me. To all the viewers, thank you for tuning in. And may Allah bless you all. Everybody, have a good night. Islam.
Peace.
Islam.
Islam.